Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 193 of Husavik Heroes here on Shaun Does FM. And coming up in today's episode we have the end of season review. As you can see on screen and off the back of that, we are going to play the last two games of our Champions League group stage, going away to take on Cologne and following that up with a home game against Arsenal, just needing 1 point from those last two games to secure top spot in our group. We should also have the draw for the first knockout round of the competition as well. And as well as that, we are going to keep an eye out on Phil Kerr and especially HK down in the Europa League. HK still in with a chance of making the knockouts of European football. So if you are looking forward to today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video. And if you haven't done so already and are enjoying this series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. It is greatly appreciated. A few things to cover off first. No intro today because there is editing Shaun, and after that packing Shaun is needed with moving house tomorrow. We're going to talk about that towards the end of today's episode if there's going to be any disruptions because of the house move. So no intro, as we do need to get through this stuff a little bit quicker than usual if I can do so. And also, the voice is just a little bit gunky at the moment, sort of recovering from a tiny flu as well, so we better save the voice up for when it is needed. But we are starting off today's episode with the end of season review for 2037. If you did miss yesterday's episode, it was a double header in the Champions League against Famalicão. I will leave a link to that one over in the top right corner, but we are going to try and get through this a little bit quicker than it usually takes, albeit it is me, so it still might take a little while to get through this end of season review, but it is the signings that we do start off with first. Only 3 signings for the club this season. We don't actually have a signing of the season, but we did sign a few youngsters. Hamid Alipour with a B+ rating, 7.72 from a couple of appearances. Kevin Wouters, our new third choice striker here at Völsungur, high potential, getting him for 1 million off of Ajax, and as well as that Anderson Guehi, who has only recently joined the club from a deal that was done a little while ago. In game, he is quite a promising right back. So 3 new additions, no signing of the season, but all signings which the board were quite happy with. In terms of the outs over on this side as well, I think most of these transfers were looked on quite nicely by the board. The most notable of those transfers was probably that sale of Fabio Mariano prior to this European season for £21.5 million to Saint Etienne. Of course, hopefully he has a bit of an off day as he is in the same group down in the Europa League as HK, and then a few more signings, a couple of those to HK, some young players in the board. Not too disappointed with those deals, and of course we do have quite a few players out on loan from the club currently. Hopefully they can get a bit of experience out at those clubs and join the first team in a season or two's time. Over to this season's results. Most of the stuff is going to be good. We absolutely waltzed the league in the end, despite the fact we did have to play catch up off the back of the Club World Cup. We did beat HK to the title by 18 points, yet again not losing a game domestically in the league season, at least this time around. HK finished second, so they'll be in Champions League qualifying next season. Keflavik in the Europa League, I think that's an automatic group spot these days, and Phil Kerr and Natskaya are going to be in Conference League qualifying. Vikinga and KA have been relegated. The Champions League, we lost the final last season on penalties to Real Madrid, and there is what the group does look like. Going into these last 2 games, playing both Cologne and Arsenal, we can have a big influence on who else does get out of this group and into the knockouts. The real disappointment from this last season was the Malka Bicker, and we got knocked out by HK on penalties in the 4th round, albeit these days the board do not care about that competition, but still, that's a little bit disappointing. We have the Super Cup, we beat Phil Kerr in that by 2-0, and we won another deal to Bakar off the back of a 2-1 win over Phil Kerr in the final. And as well as that, it's not actually on this list, but we did also, of course, win the Club World Cup as well. Going forward to the moments to remember, our biggest win was in the deal to Bakar, a 14-0 thrashing of Protorakovic. I think this season our match to remember actually does make some sense. It was the second leg of the Champions League semi-finals. We picked up a 4-1 win over Manchester United. Absolutely battered those guys, which was very nice indeed, having played them in the last 3 Champions League finals. And our goal of the season was in the Malka Bickerin in a 6-1 win over KR, and it was scored by Narek Voskanyan. It was at the 14-minute mark. He is on the ball here just outside the box, plays that back to Costa Bokek, back to Voskanyan, and just rips one there into the top right corner. We did score a few goals like that in this past season, but can't argue too much with that one, even though It was in somewhat of a pretty meaningless game in our overall season, but that did pick up the goal of the season, that one going to Narek Voskanyan. In terms of the finances, these are very, very good, especially sponsorship. That has gone up quite a bit since this time last season, but everything good there despite the fact we didn't win the Champions League like we have done over the past 2 seasons. Also, shirt sales these days as well going very well as well. That might be due to the fact that we do have a few overseas affiliate clubs as well going forward to the best 11. We'll check on that later because that screen is usually bugged out. And now the club awards, it is Bruno Costa with more or less a clean sweep. He has picked up both the player of the season and the young player of the season at 22 years old. So that's interesting there. Our backup box-to-box midfielder does win the fans player and young player of the season. The top goal scorer was Adam Saki with 44. Most assists was Agatigere with 21. The most player of the matches was Saki with 10. And the highest average rating was also Adam Saki with an 8.0. So it does look like Adam Saki potentially got a little bit hard done by there, but it is Bruno Costa picking up the 2 major awards and going over to the record breakers, the most goals by a player in a league season. That was Saki with 24. Most goals by a player in a match is also Saki with 5. He also picked up the most player of the matches in a season, the most league goals by a player for the club now with 86, and as well as that, Heiko Kunze, he scored the fastest goal for us so far in this save at the 10-second mark. I think that might have been in one of the cup competitions. And then the overall awards, African Defender of the Year was Ali Ramadan, and then from there is really a clean sweep here for Adam Saki, the Ballon d'Or winner, the FIFA Best Men's Player winner, the FIFA Pro Player of the Year, the Broadcasters African Footballer of the Year, the African Striker of the Year, and the Icelandic Golden Boot all went to him. He might be in with a sneaky chance of picking up that Ballon d'Or yet again. Of course, this was an AFCON year, and he did pick that up with Morocco, albeit he didn't win the Champions League this time around, so it'll be interesting to see if he is still in the hunt to pick up back-to-back Ballon d'Ors. As well as that, the Champions League goalkeeper of the season was Carl Vollen, the Premier Division player of the season here in Iceland. That was Bruno Costa, so he's picked up a few awards, and the young player of the season here in Iceland was Christopher Allargard, and that will pretty much do it for the end of season review this time around. But we will just go back and have a quick look at the best 11 from this past season. And this is where our best 11 for 2037 did look like. It is mostly first team players. Just in defence, Richard Boissois is there instead of Ali Ramadan. In the midfield, we have Bruno Costa in place of Benvenu Bayer, and both of our wingers are different as well. Christopher Allargard is there instead of Mizkic, and as well as that, there is Menga instead of Agatigere. But apart from that, I think most of those first team players are on the bench, apart from Mizkic, and as well as that, we have the likes of Robson, Gabriel Kapan, Narek Voskanyan, and Heiko Kunze. And we didn't actually get an update on our overall best 11 yet again, so I think that means that this team is unchanged from this time last season. Indeed, it does look very, very similar, so I don't think we've had any changes there to our overall best 11. And some other news that you might be interested in. For some reason, this went a little bit too far to pull this up in the inbox, but the Goal 50 awards have been given out. Lassana Doumbia, he was ranked 4th in that, so that is the highest we've had a player so far in this save. Carl Vollen was just outside the top 10, and Adam Saki was ranked around about halfway there, 24th on the Goal 50 rankings. But it is time to focus on European football now. We are about to play the last 2 games of our Champions League group stage. They are away against Cologne and then at home to Arsenal. And as you can see there, we will just need 1 point from those 2 games to secure top spot in the group. It's a rematch from the first 2 games that we did play in this group earlier on this week. We picked up a 2-1 win against Cologne at home. That was a game which was probably a little bit closer than it should have been. And then we picked up a 2-0 win away against Arsenal at the Emirates. So based on that, we should at the very least be getting that 1 point that we do need to make our way through to the knockouts in top spot. And as well as that, we can have quite a big impact potentially on whether it is Cologne or Arsenal who also make their way into the knockouts of the Champions League. We'll see which one of those teams does end up down in the Europa League. A quick look over at what all of the groups do look like as well, because of course we do need to keep an eye out potentially on who is going to finish second in some groups. You can see there already in Group A, Man City look like they'll be finishing second. PSG as well in Group C potentially, although they're still quite close up there with Bayern Munich. It looks like Valencia are in prime position to finish second in Group D. Real Sociedad or Partizan in Group E. Still a big fight there in Group F in behind Barcelona, and we'll make our way over to these other groups so you can actually see them and editing. Shaun doesn't have to work too much more. It does look like one of Ajax or Hertha Berlin will get out of Group G and down to Group H. It is looking like Juventus will be the team who do finish in behind Man United as top qualifiers in that group. And while we are on the subject of Europe as well, just a quick update on the situation in the Europa League, especially with HK, because Fulkia, as you can see there, pretty much are already cooked, but HK currently find themselves second in that group, so and with a good chance of making the knockouts of Europe, albeit their last two games are against Liverpool and Saint Etienne, albeit one of their previous wins did come against that Saint Etienne team. But we are about to take on Cologne. We bet them 2-1 earlier in the group stage, as you saw before a game, which, as I said, we probably should have won a little bit more comfortably, but they're going to be pretty similar to how they did line up for that game. Currently find themselves second in the Bundesliga and behind Hertha Berlin. Bayern Munich these days have certainly fallen down the pecking order there in Germany, which is very interesting, but this should be a team we are capable of beating, and we do go into this one at full strength. Bruno Costa is back from his injury, so he will be back on the bench and will come back shortly and try and make sure there is nothing riding on that Arsenal game, and we'll try and get the job done here at the Line Energy Stadion as we take on Cologne. And here are the team sheets for this first game of today's episode. There are Cologne 4-2-3-1, looking quite similar to when we did last play them. They are coming to this one in quite good form as well. There we are, it's our best 11, and Bruno Costa is back on the bench in place of Narek Voskanian, and as you can see, just needing that 1 point from these last two games. And we go forward around about the 7-minute mark for our first highlight of this game. Cologne pumped that deep, but we do win the ball back there with a hero. Now Agatigere is inside the box, and I think that's actually been given as a foul, despite the fact that it was a pretty point-blank header there for Adam Saki. There might be a foul here by Van Leeuwen, and we might get an early penalty just like we did in the other game against these guys at home, and indeed that is the case. So a great chance here for us to get on the score sheet nice and early through Adam Saki, but that is a very good save by Sharif and goal there for Cologne, and we blow a big chance there nice and early to go 1-0 up, albeit we do still have a corner which Bassero Gay gets on the end of, and somehow they bundle that one out for yet another corner, that one coming off of the post. So a couple of really good chances there early for us to get on the score sheet. They eventually deal with the danger, most notably a missed penalty, and that keeps it 0-0 coming up to the 10-minute mark. And we go forward to the 23-minute mark for our next highlight. Is a throw inside the half of Cologne, albeit they do get a foot in here and might get a chance here on the counter-attack. An update from the other game in this group is 2-0 Arsenal early on, so it does look like Arsenal are going to be winning that game at the Emirates, but we do get the ball back there off the back of the ball played forward from Cologne, so hopefully we can make up for those good early chances which we did miss and get on the score sheet here as we take our time to play out from the back. Jonathan Berger has picked up a yellow card, so that might be something we do look to deal with at half-time. Might be bringing on someone like Luis Herrera. We play a ball over the top there, can't quite link up with Adam Saki, but thankfully not too long off the back of that, Ali Ramadan does get possession back for us, and now it is Filippo Donelli playing that one back to Radenko Krolo, and now it's a ball played over the top from Krolo, and he does pick up Adam Saki. It's a little way out, just a little bit too much on that chip. It goes over the bar, and it is still 0-0. And only a few minutes off the back of that previous highlight, we now have another corner, which we can't quite link up with Bassero Gay from, but Doumbia is there to try and tidy things back up for us, and we do look to get back on the attack. Agatigere back in there for Saki, another long-range strike, and yet again, that one goes just over the bar in the top right corner, still 0-0 at the half-hour mark. And we're about 10 minutes left in this first half. Arsenal have just picked up a third goal there against Famalicão, so Cologne will definitely be wanting to pick up some points in this game. But here's a chance for Agatigere, yet another long shot. We're supposed to be working the ball into the box, but yet again, that one does just go over the bar, so we're getting close, but it is still locked up here at 0-0, and we are down the other end not too long off the back of that previous highlight. And will Cologne do something similar to what they did to us in that first game of the group stage? It's Magno here with a header, but thankfully that one does just go over the bar, still 0-0 with a few minutes left in the first half. And that is half-time in this first game of today's episode, still locked up at 0-0. Not quite exactly sure how that is the case. We at the very least should have scored early on there from the penalty spot, but fairly encouraged by how we are playing so far this game, going in quite a similar fashion to that first one against these guys back at my arena. We're going to make a few changes at halftime. We have Herrera coming on for Berger on a yellow card as well as that. Mizkic did pick up a little niggle there late in the first half, so Alagard can come on for him. We'll adjust some opposition instructions and hopefully get that point that we need locked up at 0-0 as we get the second half underway. And around about 10 minutes into the second half, we have our first highlight of it is a throw-in here inside the final third, but unfortunately, it is Cologne here who do get on the end of that ball. There's a few deflections there, but somehow they do keep possession, so a little bit fortunate there for Cologne. They try and play a ball over the top there. Calvolin does come out to head that and thankfully does find a teammate, and now Adam Saki is in behind and we do start to find some space. Agatigere with a shot, that one goes just wide of the left-hand post and it is still 0-0 at the 55-minute mark. And just about to enter the last 20 minutes of this game, with our next highlight was just about to tell the boys to not quite focus so much down the middle and also widen our attack, but before those changes can be implemented, we do get on the attack here through Radenko Krolo. We'll square this one. It's a little bit messy and eventually the ball does fall to Christopher Alagard. He comes off the bench and picks up yet another goal in the Champions League. He's probably quite close to actually pushing Mizkic for that starting spot in this team. That might be something we need to consider off the back of the break, off the back of these games. In today's episode, Saki with a block shot. It was a very messy goal, but Alagard just puts that one inside the far post and we do make it 1-0 with 20 minutes left. And about 5 minutes off the back of that opening goal, we have another highlight here, and David Luiz does lose possession there to Lassana Doumbia, and we do have a slight overlap here, albeit we actually do link up there with Adam Saki. Thought we might miss out there. Bayer with a shot yet again. Cologne do get in the way of that one. Hopefully I haven't been calling these guys RB Leipzig. They do have quite a few former Leipzig players in this team. Filippo Donelli gets his head on the end of that corner. It goes just over the bar, and with 15 minutes left, it is still 1-0 in our favour, and not too long off the back of that highlight, we do have another Radenko Krolo just trying to put a ball here into the mixer. Can't quite pick out Alagard this time, and it's a long ball played over the top there for Abdulkarim, I believe that is, and somehow gets on the end of it. They are on the attack here, and that's a very good save there on the shot from Calvolin. So Cologne with a chance for an equaliser. We keep it at 1-0 with 13 minutes left, and I think it is time for us to make our last substitution. Benvenu Bayer only going okay. Our player of the season, Bruno Costa, will come on for him. We'll switch Doumbia to the Mazzala, and with 13 minutes left, we still have a 1-0 lead. And 10 minutes left in this one. It is a throw in here to Cologne, albeit they do give that ball straight to Agatigere. Can we grab a cushion goal? Of course, that was also an issue the first time that we did play these guys, but Krolo there will try and put that ball into the mixer. Thankfully, that deflection falls to Agatigere. It's another pretty ugly goal, but I think we deserve it. And there is the cushion goal, and with 10 minutes left, we now have a 2-0 lead, and at the very, very least, that should secure us the 1 point we do need from this game to make sure we go through in top spot. Agatigere off the deflection puts that one in the bottom left corner. 2-0 Völsungur at the 80-minute mark. And just about to end this game, we are deep in injury time. In the end, a fairly comfortable 2-0 win. The goals we did score were a little bit ugly, and we did give away a chance early to get off to a flyer from the penalty spot through Adam Saki, but thankfully both of our wingers ended up on the score sheet, albeit quite ugly goals, as I said, but we pick up another 3 points, and that means that we are going to be qualifying from this group in top spot. Doesn't really matter what happens in that last game against Arsenal, albeit it will have an impact on who does get out of that group, so we are still going to show you guys that one before we do have the draw for the first knockout round. Arsenal, in the end, did pick up quite a comfortable result there against Famalicão as well, so at the moment, it is us in top spot. That is guaranteed, and you'd probably favour Arsenal based on that result there against Famalicão, albeit there is still a chance that Cologne could overtake them if the goal differential swing is significant enough on that last match week. So we'll come back shortly. We'll do a very quick recap of the Europa League and then take on Arsenal. Nothing really riding on it for us, but we'll see if it is them or Cologne who go through alongside us to the first knockout round. And we are back prior to taking on Arsenal on the last match day of the Champions League group stage. A very quick update on what is going on prior to this last match day. First off, down in the Europa League, Filkia are definitely cooked now. They can only finish fourth in their group off the back of a 2-1 loss there. They did score an early goal away in Austria against SV Ulay, but they came back with 2 goals either side of half-time, albeit I say that one of those goals was in the 81st minute, and they suffer yet another loss. And Filkia, doesn't matter what they do against Napoli on the last match week, they are finishing bottom of that group. And if we go up to Group C where HK are, the news isn't actually that much better. As expected, they got pumped at Anfield by Liverpool. That's not a surprise. But what is a surprise is yet again Saint Etienne have dropped points, this time losing 2-0 against Kolabara, and that means that Kolabara have actually gone above HK on goal differential. So that really does open up that group going into that last match week. I thought that HK at the very least should be making the knockouts of the Conference League. Now that is no certainty, albeit their last game is at home, and Saint Etienne do look like they are struggling a little bit. Hopefully Fabio Mariano does not come back and bite HK yet again, and they somehow find a way to, at the very least, go through in that group in third position. But a big upset win there for Kolabara, and that means that that group is wide open in behind Liverpool. Probably does mean that Kolabara aren't in with much of a chance on that final match day. It probably depends who wins that game between HK and Saint Etienne, who does make their way into the knockouts of the Europa League. But going back to our group here for the Champions League, we are taking on Arsenal. We'll just make sure we can actually bring up the right group for this one. We are guaranteed top spot. It really does depend on goal differential, though, who is going to be finishing in second spot, as long as Cologne do get the job done over Famalicão, as you would expect, considering the way that those guys have been playing, scoring 0 goals and conceding 19. So it does really depend on the scoreline between us and Arsenal, even though not much riding on this game for us. We are still going to put out our best 11 in our last game of the season before we have a couple of months off before the League Cup. Just one change on the bench. Herrera is injured. Bokek will come on for him, but will come back shortly and run through the Arsenal team sheet. Last match day of the Champions League group stage. Will Arsenal go through alongside us? We'll find out shortly from my arena. And here are the team sheets for the second game of today's episode. As mentioned before, we are pretty much the same in terms of our starting 11 going into this one, but Bokek does come on the bench for an injured Herrera, and there are Arsenal playing a 4-2-3-1, again looking quite similar to the team that we did defeat earlier in the group stages, and we'll see what we can do here, and if Arsenal will be joining us in that first knockout round draw. And 6 minutes into this one, we have our first highlight is a throw-in here. Jonathan Berger puts this one into the mixer. Lassana Doumbia in the end gets his head on the end of that, but that one does just go over the bar, coming up to the 10-minute mark, still 0-0. And very shortly off the back of that first highlight, we have another one here. We try and play a ball over the top, but thankfully Arsenal just head that straight back down into our path, and Ali Ramadan here takes his time on the ball. We do get up just inside the Arsenal half and steadily inch our way closer to their goal line through our defenders, albeit they are pushing us back just a little bit here, but I think we'll eventually get back on the front foot, and indeed we do, trying to do something here down our right-hand side. Radenko Krolo ball over the top for Bayer, and a lot of space, and he will put that away in the bottom left corner. Benvenu Bayer will score that one, and after 10 minutes here at my arena, we do have a 1-0 lead, and that could make things interesting for Arsenal trying to get out of this group, depending on what Cologne can do against Famalicão. So far, no updates from that game, but we get off to a good start here. 1-0 Völsungur after 10 minutes. And that's half-time in the second game of today's episode. Very quiet off the back of that Benvenu Bayer goal, but we are slightly edging things here in this one, leading 1-0 going into half-time. As I said, pretty quiet game, but at the moment, it does look like we might be getting through this group stage with a perfect record. Jonathan Berger did pick up a yellow card in that first half, so I think what we're going to do yet again is play things safe. I think, though, this time we might just switch things up a little bit compared to what we did do last time with no Louis Herrera on the bench. Pedro Lemos is a little bit more match fit, so I think we'll bring him on for Berger, and Radenko Krolo can switch out to left back for the second half. We kick it off with a 1-0 lead. And only a few minutes into the second half, we have another highlight, so things might be picking up a little bit more here in this half compared to that first one, but we are in possession here off the back of a throw, and Adam Saki starts to go forward. Some good short passing here, big chance for Adam Saki, some wonderful play, but blast that one over the bar, and early on in the second half, still 1-0 Völsungur. And just shy of the hour mark, we have our next highlight. Arsenal here are looking to play out from the back, but at the moment we're doing a decent job here of pressing them. They do find Danilo there, albeit good interception from Radenko Krolo, who has switched out to the left-hand side, as you saw at halftime. Again, some good short passing, and this time we put the ball in the back of the net. It is Lassana Doumbia who will tuck that one away, and at the hour mark, we grab a 2-goal buffer here over Arsenal. Still haven't seen an update from that game between Cologne and Famalicão, but this will certainly start to make things interesting for that second spot, but very much like that first highlight in the second half, but this time we put the ball in the back of the net. 2-0 Völsungur, just past the hour mark. And nearly 5 minutes off the back of that second goal, we have another highlight here. Yet again, Arsenal looking to play out from the back, and yet again, they do give the ball away, albeit that's a good slide tackle there on Saki. So Arsenal do get back on the ball, and Guzzo here will find Kostic out on the right-hand side. Arsenal will probably want a goal soon here if they want to try and find their way to getting a point out of this game, and 1 point would be enough for them to make sure that they can secure a second spot in this group. But we do get the ball back there as Arsenal were on the attack, albeit a poor pass there looking for Adam Saki, and Arsenal are back in possession, and Furhart here starts to make his way towards the halfway line. Arsenal do start to get on the front foot. Warren finds a bit of space here down the left-hand side, puts the ball far post there for Kostic, but thankfully that header does just go over the bar. And just off the back of that highlight, Lassana Doumbia has gone down to a red heart, so we will take him off for Bruno Costa. That's 2 of our subs used. I think I might have just seen a bit of an update there. It did look like Cologne had a bit of a strong lead there against Famalicão at the moment. It might be Cologne going through, but we'll just wait and see. 2-0 with 25 minutes left. And only a few minutes off the back of that second substitution, it is yet again Arsenal getting things back underway here with a goal kick. Still probably needing a couple of goals here to try and get above Cologne, because I did think I saw a scoreline around about the 4-0 mark in a very quick little update before we did make that most previous substitution, and that would be enough of a swing for Cologne to go through ahead of Arsenal. But it does look like Arsenal here are keeping hold of the ball well, albeit they do have to play that one back for Patona. Now Quinones gets out to Isaac on the right-hand side. Very good wing back there out of Brazil, and Golas gets this forward to Ademir. Holding the ball well in this highlight. Arsenal will put a ball into the mixer. We don't deal with that at all. That is really poor from our defence, as well as goalkeeper inside the inner box, and Oliveira will tuck this one away. That is definitely a goal. Of course, he did score in the previous game, but that one was ruled out for offside. This ball was way too close to the goalkeeper to be let through, but Ramadan misses it, and Volin doesn't get down to it. It's a simple tap-in, and with about 20 minutes left, it is 2-1. And we've gone forward a few minutes off the back of that goal to Arsenal. 17 minutes left, and they do have another highlight here inside the final third. Thankfully, though, Bruno Costa with the interception off the bench, and we get that forward to Adam Saki. Back for Mizkic. Can we strike back immediately and grab that cushion goal? We find a lot of space here down the right-hand side through Pedro Lemos. He puts this in again. Good short passing. Adam Saki, that one, though, does come off the inside of the post. Another big chance. Still 2-1 with 15 minutes left. And up to the 80-minute mark, I think it's time for us to make our last substitution. Radenko Krolo is playing quite well out there, but I think we should shore up our defence with it being 2-1 with 10 minutes left. So I think what we are going to do here with our last substitution, Premzil Bokic will come on for Radenko Krolo with 10 minutes left. And at the 87-minute mark, we do have a free kick here, trying to put this far post, but Isaac deals with it. Do have a proper score update from the Cologne game. It was 3-0, and there's a nice slide tackle. It actually falls perfectly into the path of Adam Saki, and that could be another big goal for Cologne. We make it 3-1, and that will surely seal us 3 points in this game. It's a 2-goal swing for Arsenal, and with Cologne being up 3-0 against Famalicão, that might be enough of a turnaround to get some good short passing, and Quinones there a little bit unlucky. His slide tackle, Saki gets on the end of it before Patona. We start to get now into injury time in this one with a 3-1 lead. Still looking for updates from the other game, but I do think that Cologne might just be doing enough to go through, but we go through the group undefeated, picking up the maximum points from our games. We pick up a 3-1 win there against Arsenal. They did get back into that game at the 69-minute mark through Oliveira. A bit of a soft goal to concede, a bit too close there to the goalkeeper, but thankfully we already had 2 on the board, and Adam Saki put one away in the 88th minute, and we pick up a 3-1 win, 6 wins from 6, and we go through in very nice fashion in top spot from this group. But now we wait and see if indeed what I thought was the case is the case. I think Arsenal would have got knocked out anyway with a 2-1 loss, but 3-1 just makes sure of it. Cologne with a goal differential of 4, Arsenal with 2. Of course, they both took a win off each other, and Cologne are going through to the first knockout round draw of the Champions League alongside us. So Völsungur and Cologne are going to get out of Group B. We'll come back shortly, do a Europa League update. Hopefully HK have found a way to go through to the knockouts of that competition or the Conference League, and then off the back of that, we'll be back for the first knockout round draw. And we are back just before we do a recap of what has happened on that last match day in the Europa League. A little bit of a club update. First things first, another stadium expansion is taking place. The first expansion at my arena. We are increasing the capacity by around about 4,000 seats to get that up to 19,000, which is good because we have been selling out most of our games. That is going to cost us around about the £6 million mark. So that is something to keep in mind, as well as that our facilities training-wise have been downgraded. I think we're going to request to try and improve those, and hopefully the board will get back to us with some good news, but a few updates there on the club facilities. We'll come back shortly and round up what has happened in the Europa League. And we've gone for a few days, and we are about to take part in the first knockout round draw for the Champions League. First things first, we did not get the board to improve the training facilities off the back of that downgrade, despite all my begging, so that is something we might need to look at in future years here at Völsungur, dropping down from 5 stars to 4.5 stars. But looking at the Europa League, first things first, a look at Phil Care, or should we say Phil Who Cares, because they were going to be bottom of the group anyway, and they've lost to Napoli on the last match day, just picking up the 1 point there from their 6 games. So in the end, not the greatest effort there from Phil Care in Europe this year, even though that was in the end quite a tough group. SV led, I think, doing a lot better than many people would have expected in that group. But now it is time to go to Group C and see if HK have found a way to get out of this group, and they have not. They suffer a 3-0 defeat against Saint Etienne and 2 goals from Fabio Maliano, who else Collabora actually pushed Liverpool quite close, only losing 2-1, and that does mean that Saint Etienne end up on 6 points, so they go above Collabora into that Europa League spot, and due to goal differential, HK finish 4th in behind Collabora. So despite all their good work in the early stages of that group, HK also going out of European football after the group stages of the Europa League. So it is just us left for the knockouts of European football, going back in time a couple of years with that kind of result. Unfortunately, Saint Etienne somehow finding a way to get out of that group and into the knockouts of the Europa League. But we are about to take part in the first knockout round draw for the Champions League. Really gutted about that one though for HK, for at the very least they get into the Conference League there. But this is what has happened in the groups. Group A, Real Madrid topped it, Manchester City in second. That is a team we would definitely want to avoid, us and Cologne. Out of Group B, Group C, another strong group here, Bayern Munich on top, PSG is a second seed. Group D, RB Leipzig on top, Valencia in second, just getting over the line there ahead of AC Milan. Group E, Inter Milan on top, Real Sociedad in second. Down to Group F, Barcelona on top, Sporting out of Portugal in Group F. That could be quite an interesting matchup, especially with the coefficient table, us looking to close the gap on Portugal up in 6th spot, and we'll make our way over to the other page to show you guys these bottom 2 groups, so my head is not blocking it. Hertha Berlin get the job done to finish second in that group, and behind Chelsea. And down to Group H, and the second seed for this group is Juventus, just doing enough to edge Sevilla out there, and behind Man United, who qualify out of that group on top. Sevilla probably going to be having a good little run there in the Europa League, as they do tend to do. But it is time for that first knockout round draw. You did just see the first seeds and the second seeds. I think if we can get someone like Sporting, we will be very, very happy indeed. If we can avoid someone like Man City as well, that would be quite nice as well, or PSG or Juventus. Those 3 teams in particular do look like the strongest ones here in this draw. And first out of the hat is Hertha Berlin. They will be drawn against Inter Milan, so that is the first matchup. Next up, we do have Juventus. This is probably one of the teams we would like to avoid. They get Bayern Munich, so that is a big matchup there for the first knockout round. Bayern Munich get past PSG in their group and get rewarded with a tie against Juventus. Next up out of the hat, another big gun in PSG, and they get drawn against the defending champions in Real Madrid. So far this draw going quite nicely for us, I believe. Some of those big guns in the second pots have drawn against some quite good teams out of the top one. Next out of the hat are Valencia, a team I wouldn't mind getting. Definitely, I think, one of the weaker ones in that second seed pot, but they will get Manchester United, and they will be taking on Valencia, and that is the first week at the very least of those first knockout round ties. Next up, we do have Sporting out of Portugal. If we can get these guys, I will be very happy indeed, and indeed that is the case. We are taking on Sporting, early on next week in the first knockout round of the Champions League. That should be a very winnable tie for us, and hopefully we can go deep in the Champions League yet again. Of course, the board these days do expect us to be making the final of this competition, so certainly a lot of pressure to go deep in the Champions League. Otherwise, maybe we turn our attention in the save to international management if we do get the sack. We might need to think about that if things do go wrong. Next out are Cologne. They are going to be taking on Chelsea. Next out is Man City. They will be taking on Barcelona. That's a pretty tough tie for them, considering the teams that were left in that bottom half of the draw. In the last draw, it is Real Sociedad, and they will be taking on RB Leipzig. So coming back early on next week, Sporting Portugal are taking on Völsungur. I can't actually remember if we have played these guys in the past, but that should be a tie. I think we are very, very capable of winning against a 4-star reputation club. But that will do it for today's episode and for this week here on the channel. Obviously, tomorrow going out to move house. I'm not too sure exactly when we will be back next week. I have a modem for the new house, so we're not going to be short on internet for a few days. It does just depend how much FM I do get played over the weekend. I'll keep you guys updated on Twitter or down in the comments as to when the next episode will take place. But hopefully I can get back on top of things as soon as possible and back into the swing of things. We'll just have to see though, because I do have a little bit of new equipment I do need to set up at the new house as well, different face cam and a few other things as well as some streaming equipment. So hopefully, maybe not this upcoming Monday, but the week after, we might try and get something going on Twitch as well and do some live streams Monday night New Zealand time and Monday morning UK time. But that will do it for today's episode. We go through the group undefeated and are taking on Sporting at some stage next week. If you did enjoy today's episode, then do remember to go down below, leave a thumbs up on the video, and if you haven't done so already and are enjoying the series here on the channel, also remember to hit that subscribe button and turn that notification bell on as well. And until next time, as I said, I'll keep you guys updated down below as to exactly when the next episode is going to be. But till the first knockout round against Sporting out of Portugal, thank you very much for watching. Keep on keeping on, and I'll see you then. Cheers.